everyone, welcome back to the garden. Today I am going to be talking a little bit about seed saving and why it's so important. So seed saving is exactly what it sounds like. I'm saving seeds. Now I'm getting these seeds from the plants around me as their season ends, and I'm going to be collecting them in different ways for different kinds of plants. So I've got some beans here. I'm going to show you how I collect and shell the bean pods. But seed saving is incredibly important, arguably the most important thing a gardener can do, because it solidifies life in the garden for the next year. So if I were to not save my seeds, then I would have to find seeds every single year from an outside source. Saving seeds allows our garden to be self-reliant. It also can extend invitation to the community, to extend our garden community. So what I mean by both of those things is every year we save seeds. These are the seeds that came from the plants that survived in our garden this year. These seeds from these bean pods, these bean plants survived that really hot, smoky summer. We know that those beans from this year are very strong, right? So for next year, when we can expect probably another hot, smoky summer, we want beans that are going to be able to survive that. So instead of going out and trying to find beans from another faraway place that, might grow, we don't know if those beans can survive the summer we had in this garden. But we know that these bean plants did. So we know that their seeds, their babies, probably can too. So saving seeds, especially within your own climate, especially year after year after year, you're picking the strongest plants, the plants that are going to be the best suited to your environment. Now, one of the things I like to do with the seeds, obviously, is plant for the next year. But another thing I do, which might be surprising, is I share these seeds. So our garden doesn't have all the plants. Or sometimes, especially this year, some of the hollyhocks died, but they died during that really smoky time when I couldn't get out to harvest the hollyhock seeds, and the weevils got to them before me and they bored holes in the seeds, and those seeds won't produce hollyhocks next year. So instead of going out and maybe purchasing seeds, I can then take my seeds, some of my seeds that I know are strong, and I can find some other local person that has seeds that I want, that they know are strong, and we could swap, which is really cool. So it extends our garden community to other local people, right? We get to bring other people into our community and share what we've got, and sometimes get seeds in return, which is great. Sometimes I don't get seeds, I get plants, which is kind of fun too. So seed saving is absolutely incredibly important. Yes, so I harvested some beans from the bean teepee. Got my basket and I'm headed into circle 3 over to the bean teepee. And I'm going to be harvesting the old bean pods to break apart for seed saving. So here's a great example. These guys are ones that I have saved on the vine. Now I've got quite a few of these beans still on the vine, but what I'm going to do is I only ever harvest maybe half to maybe 2/3. So I've got all these big guys. I mean, look at that monster. Wow. On the vine, but I'm going to leave them. And I'm going to let them get kind of dried and pale and shriveled up like these so that I can save their seeds, right? This doesn't have much flavor to it. It's old bean, but it's going to have seeds in it. So some of these I'll still harvest because they're still good to eat, but mostly I'm just going to be picking these kinds to harvest. Now when I harvest the beans from the bean teepee, like I said before, I like to get these they're like brown and shriveled. This one used to be purple. You can see at the top, it used to be purple. But this means that it's dried out and it's going to be easier for me to open, and that the seeds inside are as mature as they need to be. So I just rip it open, and inside, look how beautiful they are. little sweet seeds sitting in there. Then I just collect them. And you know what I do? Sometimes people will, you'll want to label what kind of seeds you've got, but I just take all the bean seeds and mix them together because I kind of like when they're all on that bean teepee in a funny, you know, one's green, one's purple, one's green and purple, and I really like the way that looks. So I don't really mind mixing them, and they're all pole beans, means that they climb things, so I say mix them. But if I was, you know, separating beans, and I'll insert a clip, just a minute of me collecting the collard green seeds. I would want to label those so that I would know for next year, and I would want to put the date on it so that I could know what year I collected it. And then these are going to go in the compost. I'm just going to continue opening these up. The way you want to store your seeds is either in, you can do a couple ways. Either in, you can make a little like paper pouch, tape it up, label it. But before you put them in, you're gonna want to dry them or make sure that they're not wet. Like this one is actually a little damp. So I'm just gonna set them out on like an old window screen in a shady place, not out in the sun. Just like in a nice shady place. Also, if you can, do it indoors or somehow protect them because squirrels will come by and eat your seeds. And then you can either put them in like a little paper pouch with the date on them. You could store them in a jar. You could store them in a little box. As long as it's going to be a place that, as long as the place that you're storing them within whatever vessel you put them in is not going to get them wet and is not going to get them, you know, extreme heat or extreme cold. So the shed at our garden is actually great. I don't know how because it doesn't have any insulation, but it's a great temperature regulator, and it's generally about the same, like my best guess is like 70, 75 degrees in the shed at all times. It's my little refuge when it's so cold out here in the winter mornings. I go in there sometimes just to warm up. But it's a great place for me to store my seeds. Now, if you don't have one of those, you can always store them inside your house or maybe in a protective box outside. Another seed I love to collect are the hollyhocks and the calendula in our garden. This is an example of a hollyhock seed pod. And you can see all those little holes. Those are those weevils. This is actually still quite ashy, which is interesting. And I didn't get to it in time, so it's all rotted. These were probably ready during that almost month where it was just too smoky for me to be outside for long working. But I love to collect the hollyhocks and the calendula and then make seed bombs out of them, and that will be another video to show you how to do that. But the idea of seed collecting, and I'll just repeat myself really, is so incredibly important to maintaining your garden and keeping your garden as community and local as possible. So if you ever grow a garden, make sure that you're saving those seeds for next year, or eating the seeds at least. Don't let those go to waste, because seeds are the very basis of life, and they give us such opportunity to continue on next year. Window screens I found on the side of the road, and I'm just going to spread them out here to dry them off. And I had a thought for you guys. You could also, if you're ever out in the world or like walking, you know, down the street, and you see a plant that you want to cultivate at home, that you want to grow at home, that could also be a way of seed saving. You could take, don't take all the seeds, but take a few of those seeds from that plant, and then you can save them for the next season. You know, research that plant. When does it grow? When should you plant it? And then plant it so that you can grow more of it at your home. In fact, this are the seeds from a melon, a yellow melon. I couldn't tell you the name of it. I'll have to figure it out. But these are the seeds from a melon that I bought at the farmer's market all summer that my husband and daughter absolutely love. And I told them, if we save the seeds, I'll grow them for you next year. So you could even save the seeds from things that you buy from the supermarket, so then you can just grow them yourself. Even another example of a seed saving
method I use. This is fennel, and the stalks were getting really long and the bits at the top were all dried out. So I cut some of the stalks and I'm hanging them upside down to dry. And then when I've got some time, I'm gonna pop off these seeds and save them. Now, I'm not a super huge fan of fennel, but I'm gonna put it around the garden for the birds and the animals. And then I'm going to share lots of these seeds. So seeds that you're not super fond of, or plants that you're not super fond of, those ones can be the ones that you
Here's
share.
a little clip I took back in the beginning of August when I was saving the collard green seeds. Hello everyone. I am in the garden with a very large basket of collard green seeds, and I've got tons more over there. So this last year we grew a lot of collard greens in Circle 4. As you guys can see, I'm by the shed, so Circle 4 is that way. And when they are done growing, basically what they do is, you know, you've got your big leaves for most of the winter and spring, but then once it starts getting pretty hot, basically by the first like 80-degree heat, the collard green plant will bolt. Now this happens to a lot of leafy greens, lettuce, kale, chard, there's the ones that we grow in the garden, will bolt when it gets hot. So that means that they'll send up a really long shoot at the top of it really fast, and they'll start producing seeds. So the heat signifies to them the end of the growing season and the start of the seed season. So what'll happen is they'll start to turn like a tannish color. Looks like they're drying out. And they produce just tons of seed pods. So what I like to do is get the big stalk and just rip off all the seeds, pop them in a basket, and then go through one by one and pop them open and pull out all the seeds and put them in a little baggie to save for next year. So I opened up a seed pod. Well, here's a seed pod normally. And I opened up one side and you can see that the seeds are sitting on this middle part. Now, if I open up this side, I'm not gonna do that because it's gonna fly everywhere, but if I were to open up this side over my bag, then all the seeds would sit on this very flimsy middle part. And it's really cool because I can just really, really easily open them up, pop them open, and then at some point this bag, you guys can hear it, it's gonna get really full of collard green seeds. I will roll it up, save it for later. I actually probably won't save it for too long. I'll probably be planting them, let's see, it's August now, still too hot. It'll be too hot in September, but come October, I might start the little seedlings in the greenhouse or plant them in November, which is exciting. So I'll have collard greens most of the year. Now what I love to do with collard greens especially, because they've got these big leaves, is I like to use the leaves like a tortilla. So I use this big collard green leaf and I pack it with yummy rice, a little bit of hot sauce, a little beans, maybe some avocado, roll it up, and it's like an awesome burrito. But then you're also getting a really delicious vegetable while you're eating basically a burrito. So that is the first of the many seeds that I save in this garden.